Hi, my name is Sam and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue talking about fairly deep topics. We are on a roll and I'm going to talk about why I don't want children. And this topic was inspired by a brilliant TV series that I've recently seen on Netflix called Breeders. Now, I watched it years ago, but then it's now on Netflix and I thought, you know what, let's talk about it, because I've mentioned in other videos that I don't like children, and I thought, why not? Now, before we start, it would be amazing if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel and even leave a comment, especially about the topic and what I'm about to say, but even just a smiley face just to support the channel. And now let's get started. As always, I will voice very unpopular opinions. It's not my intention to offend anyone. I won't apologise for what I'm about to say because I think it, but it's just a way to start our conversation, and please do let me know what you think so we can discuss it in the comments. Now, first of all, actually, I'm also an English teacher, and if any of you watching is learning English, I highly recommend Breeders as a TV series because it's real, good, modern, real-life English, so do watch it for that, if nothing else. Now, the series revolves around two parents and their two children, and the drama that ensues from just having a family. And I don't even know why I started watching it, because I dislike children so much that if a series or a film revolves around them, it puts me off. If the main character is a child, it's very unlikely that I will watch the series, just because I can't relate to children at all. Now, I mean, the topic here is about being parents, which is not something that will ever concern me. So again, I don't know why I started. I think it's because it had the two main characters, Martin Freeman and, oh god, I do not remember the name of the mother, but I like her because she's mainly a comedian, and I like the other stuff that she's been in. No, I can't remember. I think that's why I watched it, and even though I don't want children, and I have very strong opinions about that, I'm also very intrigued by what inspires and pushes people to have children. So I, as a social and scientific experiment, I am interested in what people think about that and how parents navigate that and why people want to be parents. It really fascinates me. Now, the series is a sort of comedy drama because it has a lot of comedy elements, especially the parents of Martin Freeman. They're brilliant, but obviously there are very serious issues, and I think it's one of the best series I've ever watched because it tackles a very important topic, a very sad topic, I think, which is being parents, in a very clever way. So it does add a bit of comedy to it, but it really shows you the struggles and the pain in a very clever way. So again, I could not recommend it enough. I'm not being sponsored by them. Watch it for the comedy, watch it for the acting, watch it for the English. If you're learning English, watch it for the existential questions that it poses. So even if you don't like children like me, you will love the series. There is no reason not to like this series for one reason or another. So, what I loved about this series is, so the series centres around the relationship that the dad has with the children. The dad is a very impulsive person. He gets very what's the word? He has a temper. There is a word. Oh gosh, I can't think of it. So he gets angry very, very, very fast, very quickly, and is quite brutal to his children in the way he tells them off. But I don't know how to phrase it. So, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like children. I don't like children, and I feel sad for the world, because I strongly believe that there are a lot of parents that should not be parents, not only because they're not capable, but also because they don't want to be parents. And I think nobody should be or should do anything that they don't want to do. I mean, more or less, especially if it impacts your life forever and in a very, very significant way. So, although I understand that we live in a society where it's usually expected of, well, mainly straight couples to have children. I think we are evolving, and I understand that some people are still trapped in this societal rule, but I do feel for the people that, on the one hand, I feel for people that feel forced to have children even though they don't want them. At the same time, I don't have sympathy, so I have very mixed feelings, because a child is something that you decide to have unless it's an accident, and even then, well, we won't really talk about abortion, but I am in favour of abortion because I think it can save a lot of lives, the lives of the children first, because they shouldn't be brought into a world, well, the world is bad enough as it is, but they shouldn't be brought into a family that doesn't even want them. And also I do feel for the parents. So unless, yes, it's an accident, and in that case, well, decisions need to be made. A child is something that you need to want to make happen. So if you know that you don't want a child, but then you still have it, I lose a little bit of sympathy there, but that's more or less what I think. And what I love about this series is that this dad especially is not happy as a dad. I can tell. I mean, not just me. I mean, it's obvious that he struggles, which usually is what makes me lose sympathy for these parents. In this case, it's a dad, because that's the way the series has been built. But it opened my eyes to a different side of things, because even though he is a terrible dad for the way he verbally attacks his children, and for how he just vents he unloads his anger on them in ways that, I mean, wow, he's good at that. I can see the struggle. So he wants to be a good dad, he just can't, and that's something that I never really thought about. Usually I do blame parents. You know, if you're not a good dad, why are you a dad to begin with? If you're not a good mother, why are you a mother in the first place? Because I've always seen, as a waiter as well, I've seen a lot of families in my life, and I know that just that 30 minutes in the restaurant is not representative of the whole life of a family, and maybe exhausted, and maybe that 30 minutes there, they want to relax and they can't because they have children, so they take it out on the children a little bit more, or maybe they show their unhappiness a little bit more. But again, I shouldn't make too many judgments based on that little part of their lives. But I'd never stop to think that maybe some parents actually do try. They just can't do it. So that's what shocked me, and that's what I think the series shows best. Now, I'll talk about my view and then we will go back to the series. I'm trying to be as linear as I can, but I can tell that it's not working. So why don't I want children? Now, first of all, in general, I don't like any children, not just the ones that I don't have, but children give me nothing. I feel nothing towards them. I've made a video, I will link it here, about my cousin's christening. My youngest aunt is only 10 years older than me, and she's just had a baby. He's now 6 months old. And don't get me wrong, he is cute. Even I can say that, to the point where when we went to the seaside, everyone stopped to look at him because he is exceptionally cute. I'm not just saying it because he's my cousin, because again, children don't have that effect on me. So, but I don't like children. I feel no emotions towards them. When people show me pictures of their newborns, of their children, even when they're 10, I feel nothing. And people that know me know not to expect anything from me, because I just don't feel anything. And the few things that I feel are on the negative side. So yeah, children, they just don't do anything for me to begin with. Now, why don't I want a child? I am selfish. Actually, maybe I should make a video on this as well. I've always seen myself as very, very selfish in every aspect of life, but I've learned that I'm not. Or rather, the difference between me and other people is that I admit that I want things. For me, I want things a certain way, but we are all very selfish. Some people just hide it better, some people don't mention it. I can't lie, so even if I wanted to hide it, I couldn't. But I don't think I am any more selfish than anyone else. That's something that I've learned to understand. But simply, I wasn't born with the parenting gene. I do not want any kind of commitments. I mean, I've never even had a relationship, even though I don't think that's down to me necessarily. It's been a long list of bad luck, and gosh, I should make a video on that. But I do not want to be bound to someone that will take over my life. Obviously, as a parent, especially, with modern parenting, we try to give more space to the parents as individuals, which I think is great, and it's paramount to a healthy relationship. But still, you have a child. I mean, there's only so much you can do. And looking after, it's not even the looking after, it's the fact that everything then revolves around the child. It brings me no joy, and not only that, it would bring me depression, anger, fury, you name it, any negative emotion, I would feel it. So it's just not for me, and I derive again no pleasure from looking after a baby, from the idea of having to take my child to school every day, and I'm a teacher, yeah, so I love helping people, but I love helping people with my knowledge of English. I'm an English teacher. I don't want to look after them as individuals. I know it's terrible to obligation to do so. Maybe, that makes me a better person. But yes, I can't see any positives in being a parent, to the point where when someone tells me they're pregnant, obviously that should be cause of celebration, and we all say, oh, congratulations and blah blah blah, I'm very happy for you. Now again, my friends know what I think, but when my aunt told me that she was pregnant, my first reaction was deep sadness for her, because for me, having a child is a curse. Now, I know some of you might have children. Again, whilst I don't apologise for what I'm saying, I don't want to hurt anyone, and I am happy if you're happy as a parent, and I will talk about that as well. But for me, it is a curse, but again, I don't mean to offend anyone. If I wanted to offend you, you would know. Don't you worry about that. So for me, it's the biggest curse that anyone could have inflicted upon themselves, because it obviously changes your life forever in a way that I do not like. So I can't lie, unfortunately. So when people tell me, oh, I'm pregnant, they know that anything positive they try to say in that moment is fake. It's not meant. Because my first reaction is, I want to say, I'm really sorry for you. I'm really, really sorry. I hope you can get out of this somehow. Because, yeah, the idea of having your life turned upside down for someone that I can't comprehend. No. I'm a performer. Would I move for work? I probably would, because it's a passion, so obviously that would have an impact on my life as well. But it's something that I would do gladly, and I'm sure the parents that really want to be parents are happy to make all the changes necessary to their lives to make this thing work. But I can't feel that. I can't relate to that. So, and yeah, again, when people show me pictures of their newborns, I feel nothing. I don't find children cute at all, apart from my cousin. I mean, that was a big surprise for me. And even, I'm a scientist at heart, I'm a mathematician at heart. We went to the seaside together, and he was only 4 months old at the time, and I was so underwhelmed because he didn't do anything. He didn't crawl, he didn't walk, he didn't talk, he didn't react to things. Again, as a scientist, I was not impressed. But hey, that's just me. Now, yes, the changes that having a child would bring to my life, I am just not willing to put myself through, and it would destroy my life. Now, weirdly, I've always thought that because I am a teacher, and also because I always do the right thing, which is a terrible curse, I've always felt unsure about what kind of a dad I would be if it happened. Which luckily, I mean, it can't just happen with me because I'm gay, so it would have to be a very much a calculated decision. Because at first I always thought I would be a terrible dad, because obviously I wouldn't want the children. But at the same time, again, I always do the right thing. So weirdly, I think I would be a very good dad. Because again, I would do the right thing. But what I wouldn't like is that I would, and I know I'm going to say very strong words decision of having to be a good dad, that I don't know if that underlying hatred would show and they would feel it. I don't know. But yes, I would, if I just were a flat out bad dad, I would hate myself for that, and I don't think I would ever be able to be actively bad. But I would also hate myself for being a good dad, because I would hate myself for letting something like that force me to make the right decisions and to do the right thing in a way that destroys my life. So for me it would be a situation that, again, I do try to imagine it sometimes, and these are the conclusions that I've drawn, which are a bit, contrasting, but I would never want to find myself in that actual situation, because I think my brain and my heart would explode. Now, my mum works in a nursery with 30 children between the ages of 3 and 5 in Italy. She loves it. It's her calling. I am a teacher, but I used to teach adults online, and I used to teach them a subject. I used to teach English. I don't know how my mum does it. I don't understand what kind of mental, physical, emotional pleasure she gains from this, because for me it's just torture. I mean, I could not imagine anything worse. I know they're not her children, but it's 30 of them, so it's a lot. But she's got now to the point where she doesn't like the school anymore as an institution, because especially because she works in a nursery, there is no space for creativity, there is no space or time for children to be children. But they need to hit targets already. They don't need to learn to read or anything like that yet at that age, but there are targets they need to hit, and she doesn't like what the school has turned into, and she's very conflicted and torn about whether she should retire, because she can retire, but she doesn't want to because she loves children. But the whole system and environment around that is putting her off being a teacher, so she's very torn at the moment. But she loves children so much that she's still going. I don't understand that at all, but I'm very happy for her, because obviously she has a job that she loves. She absolutely loves it, and it's brilliant to see. Now, I've forgotten what I wanted to say. Yes, so she tells me stories of bad families that she deals with. She has problematic children, and often they live in challenging families. And as much as I don't like children, one of the reasons why I don't want them, and one of the reasons I think much fewer people should be parents, is that, yes, I think about the parents and how their lives will be ruined by having a child, but I also feel sorry for the children. It's not their fault that they came into this world. They never asked for it, and it devastates me to know that some of these children unfortunately are born into families that don't love them, or they love them but love is not enough. And I'm not talking about money, but just saying that you love your child is not enough. You need to show it with actions, with good, positive actions, and not everyone is capable of that. So I do feel bad for these children, and I think it's much better if they're never born. If the other option is to be born in those families, in those conditions, and don't get me started on, we're still in privileged countries, at least in terms of money and political situations, political settings. Obviously there are other countries that don't have these privileges, so obviously even that is a whole other story. But yes, if the alternative is to be born into a family like that, I think it's much better for the child primarily not to be born at all, because they are born into suffering that they don't create for themselves. They don't put them, it's not like they put themselves, they do something bad that lands them in jail, for example. So they did something bad and it's their fault. No, they are born into this family. They have no blame. It's not their fault, and they just have to suffer the consequences of being born, of being unlucky enough to have been born in a bad family. And as someone who was very lucky to be born in my family, I can't even begin to imagine what having bad parents must mean. I was extremely lucky that I have my mum. My dad left when I was 10, but I remember suffering a lot, but I don't remember much more than that. I remember my dad, obviously, but we're not really in touch for other reasons. But so my mum basically, I was 10, so and my brother was 5. And she basically raised us on her own, and I can't believe how lucky I was to have her as a mum. And I think as a child you don't really understand if a parent is good or bad. Also, I don't think you think that. Or maybe this is just the point of view of someone who had a good parent. So if you had bad parents, and even at a young age you realise that, please let me know, because I'm very curious to know what that feels like, and how sad that must be to realise that your parents are not good. But obviously, even if you're born in a bad family, you just assume that that's a norm. You just assume that that's what life is about, because that's the only thing you've ever seen. And then I realised something. I trained to be an actor, and obviously when I watch films, I'm always very focused on the technicalities of things in terms of technical stuff, completely unrelated to the actors, but also I judge people's acting. And I realised this: a good actor, in my opinion, this is just my ignorant and humble opinion, a good actor is an actor that you watch and you can't really complain about. Their acting is so good that you would never say, oh, they should have done this, or that was a bit too much, or that was too little, they could have given me a little bit more. And that doesn't mean that actors need to overshow emotions, because that could also be bad. But a good actor, in my opinion, is someone that you just watch and you believe, and you think, yeah, I believe that person. A person in that situation would react like that. So basically, a good actor is someone that you have no notes about. If I have to make notes every time I watch an actor, if I have no notes, that's a good actor. And that's when I realised that that's what I think makes a good parent. Because my mum once, when I was much older, she once asked me if we as children had ever understood or acknowledged the fact that she was a good mother, or that if we ever noticed that she did things that other parents don't do in general. Now, when I was growing up, I did notice that we were lucky. But, again, to me that was the norm. So, I realised that a good parent is a parent that you can't really fault. So if I had to make notes about my mum's parenting while I was going through it, I would have no notes. Because she made it look so easy and so seamless. She didn't make sad, upset, on a deep level. So, yes, again, this is just my new idea, and the fact that yes, she made it seem so good and natural and easy, and I felt at ease. That's a good parent, in my opinion. Now, so I was very lucky, and again, I don't know what it would feel like to have a bad parent and to be aware of it. That must be terrible. Also, because then I don't know where you go from there. When you realise that your parent is bad, then you have no other role models, you would have to look for other role models somewhere else. It must be quite lonely and devastating for a child of any age, especially if they realise very early on. And again, I'm not sure that would even be possible. When people say that being a parent is the hardest job ever, I 100% agree. That's why I don't want a child, because I wouldn't even know where to start. But yes, I've realised that, again, based on my mum's stories and what I see in the world, I've realised that not many people have the parenting gene the same way that I don't have it. And I am firmly convinced that we would live in a much better world if more people understood that they're not parent material and they didn't have children. Because obviously, by having a child that you don't fully want, something will go wrong along the way, and that then creates the bad people that we have at the moment. And it really saddens me when I see a situation like that, as I said, for the child and the parents. But again, I do lose a little bit of respect for the parents, because the parents decided to have children. And again, I know that we live in a society where, at least mostly in the past, you were forced to have children, and you know what? Despite what I've just said, I will sort of give that generation, well, those generations, a free pass, because that's what life was about, and I can see that there was no way out. But especially now, nowadays, I have no sympathy. I know people, like in my circle of we're talking about mainly straight friends now, because I have a lot of gay friends, most of whom do not want children. And obviously it's a bit more complicated for them logistically. But I know a lot of straight couples where the woman does want children genuinely, not because she has to have children, not because she's expected to have children, but just because she genuinely wants that. And I think it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, despite everything I've said, if you really want to be a parent, it must be amazing, and you should be a parent. Unfortunately, I don't really like to differentiate between men and women, but it's true that it's mainly the women that want children, and the men have to sort of go along with it. And I feel really, really bad, because I know for a fact that there are men around my age, so 32. So by now, quite a few straight couples would have children. I know couples that started earlier. I feel bad because these men don't want children, and the stories that I hear about how they then feel within the relationship with the mother, with their partner, who is now mainly a mother, obviously, how that sort of dissolves into nothing, or how the relationship with the child is also quite rocky, because there isn't enough genuine love. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe we all have a mother or father them by, how you deal with them. And if that love is lacking, well, what can you do? I mean, yeah, well, then you get the people that we get nowadays. And I will never forget this instance, and again, this is just my ignorant opinion of a very small fraction of people's lives. When I was a waiter, I saw a lot of families, obviously, and there was this one family where the father walked in with two very young girls, daughters, and they were going yap 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 yap, and I am not kidding. He was literally doing this. When's your mum coming? When's your mum coming? When's your mum coming? Now, obviously I was a bit shocked, but I also understand that I don't understand the magnitude of how desperate children can make you. So that could have just been, a bad day. Now, obviously, he didn't want to take care of these two children, so he wanted the mum to take over. Oh, the mum came alright, with two more girls. Now, I laugh now, and I laughed at the time because I just found it hilarious that this guy wanted to sort of get rid of these two daughters, and two more came. And then I thought, oh, bless you. Bless you both. Having 4 children, even if you want children, having 4, it's no mean feat. But then I thought, now again, I do not know the logistics, I don't know them as people, I don't know where they have 4 children. But I'm like, if you don't want children in general, okay, maybe you can have one, because that's what is supposed to happen. Maybe you're gonna have to try again before. And also, I don't know, maybe it was the woman's desire to have 4 children, but if you, in this case I'm saying man, but it could have been the other way around, yeah, so the man wanting more children than the woman before. I think at some point you have to put your foot down and say, I don't think I can do this, for me and for them. But again, this is just a very glib judgment based on this fraction of their life that I saw, which I found desperately hilarious. But desperate, yeah, let's focus on the desperate as well. But even in terms of family, friends, and people that I know, let's face it, I've always noticed less care coming from the men towards their children, and I've always felt sad for them because they're sort of trapped, but at the same time, I feel bad for the children as well. Now, if someone genuinely wants to be a parent, if they have this genuine burning desire, it must be the most amazing and fulfilling thing to become a parent. I don't see it, I don't understand it, I can't relate to it, I can't even begin to imagine what kind of fulfillment and satisfaction that can be, because I wouldn't feel any of those emotions. But I accept this amazing feeling that someone can feel, and it must be incredible, and I wish I could taste it. If I could put myself in someone else's life, someone who wants a child, I would love to feel that kind of excitement and overwhelming happiness when you find out that you're pregnant, or when you actually have the child there that you can be a parent to. So by all means, if you are one of those people, do it. Again, I would not wish a child on I would wish it on my worst enemy, because I would want them to suffer. see that some people genuinely want it. But again, I don't think many people want it. Not as many people as we have parents. And what I find very something that proves my point is that even in my family and family friends and generally parents that I meet, they say, of course I love my children, I would die for them and all that, but if I could go back, I wouldn't have them. And I don't think this is something that, like, saying this or feeling this makes you a bad person. I think it makes you normal. So, as selfish as I am, and don't get me wrong, most of these people, from what I can see, did a great job with their children. So it doesn't make them bad. So the fact that they wouldn't have them if they could go back, I don't think that necessarily makes you a bad parent. But that proves my point that your life was sort of, maybe not ruined, but it was sort of derailed a little bit in a way that even now, when your children are old, so you don't have to be a mother, 24/7, if you know what I mean. If even now you tell me that you wouldn't go back, that tells me that, yes, maybe it wasn't the best of experiences. And I feel sad for these parents, especially if they did a great job, because obviously, again, if their children are oldish now, that means that they belong to an older generation where you have to have children. So I understand that everything that I've said now can't really apply to them. Now, back to the TV series. Again, I've always, up until I saw that series, I'd always thought that if you were a bad parent, it was just because you didn't care enough, mother or father, and you just didn't put in the right amount of work, or, all of that. But what I saw with this dad was a struggle. Now, based on what I can see in the series, do I think that he would have children again if he could go back? No. They do show flashbacks where he was happy to be a parent, to become a parent, if I remember correctly. But obviously, when they tell you you're having a baby, then you don't know what will actually happen when you have the baby. So I understand that being happy when the baby is still in the womb doesn't really mean that that happiness will translate and will be carried over into your actual life. So it's neither here nor there. But this dad is so brutal to his children. Again, always verbally. And he makes it... It's very hard to perceive or to see any kind of love coming from this dad towards his children. By the way he treats them, the way he tells them off, and the way he insults them as well. It's quite intense. So, if you just look at the clips where he tells his children off, I'm sure that the children can't feel any love coming from him. But then you see what happens behind closed doors, and you really see the struggle that this dad is going through. He really does want to be a good dad, but he just does not have the means for it. And he does everything that a dad, or generally a parent, should do. He takes them to school, he goes to pick them up. I mean, he doesn't abandon them. That's the thing. He does everything by the book. He does everything that he needs to do to take care of his children to the best of his abilities. The problem is that, like everything in life, your best is not always good enough anyway. And for him, bless him, his best at being a parent is not good enough to be a good parent. And that some nice moments, don't get me wrong. It's not just about him shouting. There are nice moments, and there is a learning curve for him, and it's devastating to see that he just can't get it right. And from the children's point of view, I don't know if they can see that he is trying, and even if, I don't think they can, to be completely honest. And let's say maybe in the future when they are a bit older, maybe somebody, their mother can tell them that their dad tried his best. As a child, I can see how maybe you can appreciate your dad for trying, but then what you were left with as a child was a bad dad. So I don't know how a child can navigate that. It's a brilliant series, and I want to talk about this before I go. Sorry, I had to interrupt the recording earlier because somebody came to check the gas meter, and everything moved. Another reason why I don't want to be a parent is disappointment. And I want to explain this carefully. Now, I know that, I don't know, but I assume that as a parent, let me rephrase it. Sometimes, you ask parents what they would like their children to be when they grow up. Maybe a parent has the dream of having a child who becomes a doctor, or a lawyer, or a scientist, or this, or that. Luckily, especially nowadays, most parents don't get in the way of what their children want to do, which is great. In the past it happened a bit more often, obviously, because we lived in a different society. It's very sad that that was the case. But now I would say the parents that are more open outweigh those that are less open, which is brilliant. And it's, some people say, yes, maybe I would love if my child were a doctor, but I wouldn't get in their way if they wanted to do something else. And I understand there's some parents that don't even have any kind of idea of what they would expect from their children in terms of career or in terms of life choices, which is also perfectly fine. What I am very worried about, though, is that your children might disappoint you, because as much as you try to mould them not into yourself, but you teach them what you believe in, obviously, so you would hope and expect they sort of follow your way of thinking. You can't really control that, because obviously your children are different people from you, so there's only so much similarities that you can instill in them, or you can try to instill them all, but not all of them will stick. So, despite what parents say, and they all say they're very supportive of everything, I am sure, and I think it's completely normal and human, I am sure that some choices that their children make are not what the choices that they would make, and therefore they are a bit disappointed. And it's fine if we talk about silly things, but we can also be talking about big things and big life choices. And to be honest, I don't think how I would cope with that as a parent. choice, but some people just make choices different from yours for whatever reason, just because they are different people. So I do believe there's some good parents, some objectively good parents might find themselves with an addict or a criminal, and I can see how that can obviously be disappointing. Then obviously they may want to help them and all of that. That kicks in later, I would say, but I'm not sure I would be able to cope with that kind of disappointment. And I think this is something that has to be more with the parents. So it's something that I wouldn't want to experience as a parent. I wouldn't feel sorry for the children. In that, I mean, I don't think it concerns the children at all. And there is always that chance that you don't know what kind of child you will get, and again, as much as you try to bring them up the way you want, they will do different things. Take me and my brother. I mean, I'm a drag queen. He's a mechanic. That has nothing to do with the way we were brought up. But that's even just that alone tells you how different we are. I moved countries and I came here to London. He lives in the village next to my mum. We were brought up the same way, but my soul told me to move here. His soul told him to stay there. You can't really influence that as a parent, I would say. And these are just inconsequential things. But my brother used to smoke cigarettes, but I never did. Again, well, my parents are both smokers. Well, I don't know about my dad anymore, but my mum used to be. Now she stopped. But we were both brought up with a smoke around the house. I decided not to smoke. He decided to do that. I think it's now stopped. Again, these are not things that make you a good or a bad person, but that alone shows you how different your own two children can be from each other. Okay, this has been another fairly long video. I do apologise about the noise here and there, but my landlord and the gas guy are here, so that's why I had to keep cutting and coming back. But please do let me know in the comments what you think. If you are a parent, if you can relate to anything that I've said, if you're strongly